It's the dawn of the 5,000th day, and the first settlers of what will become the United Veridian States have just settled in Nudhetavoy Valley. After a long journey from their homeland, Quickville Island, across dimensions, rivers, mountains, and hostile mobs, the early settlers found a lone village built along a mountain. The leader of the settlers, the player called Comrade 5032, claimed the village as his own, and proceeded to scale up the mountain and proceeded to make a campsite that would become the Grey Keep. At this time, villagers did not have the same building protection rights as players, and so Comrade proceeded to destroy the original village to create the future capital of what he would call the Veridian Empire. To protect the new capital, two massive walls were constructed using lava casting. This allowed for the walls to be built very quickly and save on cobblestone for the construction of the major roads of the city. A major construction project was completed on the 6,500th day. The Veridian Colosseum was to act as a dueling arena for the world leaders of the server's nations. At this time, the Emperor of Veridia was forbidden from participating in any Colosseum matches, so as not to risk the potential loss of stability within the empire. Shortly after the founding of the capital, a giant religious monument was constructed, allowing the villagers and players alike to partake in a shared religious commune. Once the capital had achieved self-sufficiency, the Veridian Empire began to spread across the world, adding more villages to the empire and ensuring that each village was fortified against hostile mobs. The first form of government was centered around the national parliament, where the lords of the 6 domains and the emperor would convene on matters of state and determine the best choices of action for the country as a whole. The common villager, however, was barred from any representation in the government, leading to a general unrest in the populace as they had no say in what happened to their former lands once it was annexed into the Veridian Empire. Furthermore, the way in which the lords would vote on matters became an increasing issue, as poor infrastructure made traveling to each lord's main village to be exceedingly difficult. Another issue that plagued the emperor and nobles at court was the question of the native Aegeans, who had made a similar journey as the Veridians away from Quickville Island. The Aegeans lived north of the capital city, and their presence halted any Veridian settlement north of the modern-day Veridian state. The start of the 7,000th day was expected to be a peaceful one for Veridia. However, due to events outside of her control, it would be anything but. The Kingdom of Farloom was established around the 6,000th day. It was a monarchy much like Veridia's. However, this new kingdom had an ace up its sleeve, that being a larger workforce of players than any nation on the server. This put pressure on the Veridian court to further centralize the state to match the economic potential of Farloom. Furthermore, the unrest amongst the common folk became exceedingly high in the capital, after the emperor and his court created a new set of land laws banning any common villager from owning their own land. Protests began to form outside the National Parliament building, demanding an equal system that encompassed both players and villagers alike. The final straw came shortly after the completion of the Grey Keep. The emperor, Comrade, decided to abdicate the throne and abolish the Veridian monarchy, ending the era of monarchism in Veridia. What followed is the Old Republic era of Veridia, which was symbolized by the new parliament building constructed next to the Grey Keep. The domains formerly held by the villager nobility were stripped away from them and turned into the state system we know today. Representatives from each state would serve on the Veridian Senate and elect 2 consuls to lead them. Each consul could only serve for 1,000 days, and each one had to be either a villager or player. The new Veridian constitution guaranteed the rights of the citizens, such as their right to protest and own bows. The flag was changed by popular vote. However, the old banner of the Veridian Empire was allowed to stay in use as the flag of the newly named Veridias State. An embassy building was established to better communicate directly with the world's leaders. The Old Republic era also brought new ways of expanding. Instead of building walls around newly annexed villages, flags would simply be placed around the village, showing their allegiance while also ensuring their rights to expand. However, with the new expansion policy came the question of northern expansion. The newly founded kingdom, Tiju Chao, threatened to cut off settlement into the lands north of the capital. In a now historic Senate hearing, senators from every state all unanimously agreed to support the expansion into the northern territories. Future consul Mr. Gummy was sent to drive out the Aegeans from their native homeland, sending them as far away as east of Farloom. Many Aegean villagers were left behind and died on the way to the relocation site. However, many were also accepted as citizens of the Veridian Republic. This forced migration is still a sore spot between Aegean-Veridian relations to this very day. Thank you for joining us on this episode of UVS Today. We hope we were able to shed some light on the rich history of our nation as it evolved from a backwards monarchy to the shining beacon of democracy we know and love today. I've been Peter Jerry of UVS Today, the Millennium Veridias Time. Thank you for watching.